Like Gary said, I'm with the United Inventors Association. It's a national nonprofit, kind of an umbrella organization for all the 100+ local groups across the country. Just 3 things real briefly. One is we've updated our website, total redesign. You guys got to check it out. It's uiausa.org. And if you haven't become a member yet, please go in there and join. You get all kinds of benefits from it. It's a free membership. We're 15,000 members strong. So what that does, that gives us clout so that when we go do lobbying or advocating to Congress to help them educate them on not passing bad patent legislation, which has happened recently and is in the process again. That's the kind of stuff we do on your behalf. Secondly, we do a lot of trade shows for inventors. We put on the Inventor Spotlight at the Hardware Show, which is wrapping up this week in Las Vegas. A great opportunity for you guys to present your products to about 100 manufacturers that are looking for new products. Okay? Mark, do you have a question?
What's the website again?
I was going to uiausa.org. Okay? And the last thing, we had a successful author offer to donate copies of his book called Stand Alone Inventor by Bob Merrick. If you haven't picked up a copy the last couple of months, I've got some in the back of the room, next to the fellow in the red shirt. You can raise your hand, please. Right next to him, free copy. Help yourself if you think you would read it. Okay? And I'll turn it back over to our President, Gary Kelman, to introduce your speaker tonight.
Thank you. That was the quickest one ever. Good job.
Thank you. Last time.
Pull you off. Nobody wants to hear us. They want to hear Jonah, the speaker. So we still have people coming in, but we're going to get started. Jonah can tell some great stories and experiences, and we'll kind of lead them in the direction that you want to hear. What do you want to hear from him? So I'll let him come up here. You probably don't need a microphone. If they can't hear you, just yell at us. And you can speak on the microphone. So I've known Jonah for too long, I guess, 15 years or so. We met on a Fox 2 TV interview. I was selling flashing lights, and he was selling his Billy Bob Jeep. That's when I think he first got started, or a couple of years. He'll share some secrets to his success, and it's all about getting out there and working hard and selling your product. And don't try to let somebody else do it. It's your baby. You're passionate about your mission. So I don't think somebody else is going to do as good as you. And Jonah's a perfect example of ambition and hard work and sales and going and doing it. He bought a 4-cylinder car and drove around all the U.S. and around the world and sold his teeth out of his backpack, and that's how he got started. And that's how everybody can get started here. So we just got to go do it. So come do it. If you don't wake up. Is that him? Yeah. Yeah. I didn't feed him dinner yet, so he's a little tired. Yeah. All right, so a little disclaimer out there. If Paul Lehman ever asked to take you fishing, then go, because it takes you to the worst spots ever. I know. Yeah, he threw a disclaimer out there as a family pond. All right, well, I guess everybody here probably knows a little bit about me, enough to be dangerous. Nothing special about me. I'm not young, I'm not good looking, I'm not smart. I'm successful, I guess. I'm happy, I'm content with myself. And I grade myself. And I don't know what your needs are. Every group is different that I've ever spoken to. And I think a lot of it is just, what do you guys need from me? You know a little bit about me. Maybe not. I went to high school right across the river in Illinois, smallest community in the state. About 5,000 people live in the entire county I'm from. My parents were hippies. My father was an anthropologist.
My mother was an archaeologist. She went to Swarthmore, he went to Stanford. They were too smart for their own good. We grew up poverty poor, no running water, didn't have a flushing toilet, these modern things that everybody else kind of takes for granted. I kind of grew up without. Grew up in a log cabin. I cut firewood. I hunted for meat. Fast food for me is a little different than fast food for like the kids in school. I have very vivid memories of my father pulling our car off the road so I could go cut up a deer on the side of the road that's been hit by a car. It's nice to have steak night like Friday or Saturday night, but this is maybe contingent on the roadkill or two. So I had very humble beginnings. I guess we've kind of established that. And I'm proud of that. My dad grew up on an Indian reservation in Oklahoma, and he was very proud to be poor. And he didn't really care about money. Money was a white man's thing. And I kind of grew up kind of thinking the same thing. And I didn't want a car growing up because, they always broke down. Because, our car always ran out of gas, so I thought everybody else's car did. But, I didn't realize why we're always walking on the highway instead of somebody else. Well, you grow up and I think all of us at some point in our lives, we've all kind of gravitated towards people that we consider, heroes. And I think we all need heroes. And it's interesting, when I look back over my shoulder at growing up and the whole, hindsight is 20/20 deal. Looking at my father and thinking, man, I don't want to grow up like him. I want more than one pair of shoes a year. If my shoes get muddy or wet, I don't want to have to wear them to school tomorrow. And I think it's human nature to want more out of life, but to understand what's really important in life. And the things that matter the most, like having a father and a mother that loved you, I had that. And the really important things, one Christmas growing up, none of us bought a present for another family member because we had no money. I remember sitting with my mom with a needle and thread and threading popcorn to put on a cedar tree. That was our decorations, right? The idea of getting the little flashing lights that you plug in the wall. We didn't have that luxury growing up. And we didn't need it. And this is how I grew up. And I was proud of it. And I think it's really important for people, and they tend to get delusional, and they tend to look at the tabloids and look at the media and see that person, all that Botox or whatever they've had, and say, that's what I want to be like, or that's what I aspire to be, or that's what I want my wife to be. And they don't look at themselves, and they're not proud of themselves. And so much of life is, I've found, and I have the microphone here, so I get to talk, and you guys have to listen. But so much of life is just interpretation. Life is what we interpret it to be. We really don't have control over our life. We're not masters of the world. Maybe a little bit of our ecosystem that we're right in. But life is what you make of it. And life is reacting to everything around you. And I think we need to understand that. And it's kind of neat when I meet with gatherings of outside-the-box thinkers like this, and people that want to maybe guide their life in a different way, and people that want to have control of their life and go a different way than what they're kind of in. And it's a neat opportunity for me. I really appreciate being here. I really appreciate talking to you guys. I like looking at you guys and seeing all these hungry eyes looking at me, like looking for a morsel of something that you can take home and think, man, this is neat. I learned something today. You know, when I talk with universities, you know, you get the kids back there texting and they're sleeping and whatever, and that's cool, because, you know, I was at one time one of those kids too. I was a bona fide C student at Missouri State myself. And it's funny because I have a PR firm in Los Angeles, and they're working out a speaking arrangement for me at Harvard University, and I'm going to be the first C student from Missouri State to talk there. But I think, you know, putting everything in perspective, I want to establish to everybody that it's my belief that there really is no 100%. So please don't look for it, because you're going to be unhappy and you're not going to find what you're looking for. If you think my life's perfect, it's not. And your life is not perfect. If you think the people that are on the tabloids, they have a perfect life, they're not. I'm telling you, these people are more screwed up than most of us in this room. And I know a lot of these people. And I've met a lot of these people. Some of the richest people that I know are some of the most unhappiest people I know. And when in the last year, myself personally, I've been asked for help by about 8,000 inventors myself. And the first thing that I try to do with these people is to ask them, what are you looking for? What is your needs? What do you want? What do you want out of life? And they're not thinking like this, because they've got a box full of goodies in front of me, and they want to show me this box full of goodies. And I don't want to see that, because it's not about that. It's about them, about what they want. And oftentimes, these people don't even know what they want themselves. And they're looking for something artificial that, at this point, they're making it to be an invention that's in this box that they've come up with. And the law of averages is that their answer isn't going to be in that box. That your invention is a great invention. A thing that people, I break their train of thought. I like to do this to people. I like to take them off balance. I like to give them something that they don't expect. I guess that's just a weird thing I do. And people, they come to me with some invention, and they're telling me how great this invention is, like I've never heard this before. And I ask them, what are your goals? What do you want? And they don't want to tell me this. They're wanting to tell me about this invention. And I'm like, I don't want to hear about this invention. I want to hear, what do you want? This is not about this invention in this box. I mean, you're going to show me this invention, and I'm going to do my best to help you with it. But what do you want? This is about you, not this idea. Maybe me personally, maybe I make money on it, maybe not. That's not what's important here. It's what you want. It's what this invention identifies you. And they tell me what their goals are. You know, I want this and this and this. And maybe they haven't dug into this, and I try to get this out of them. Have you thought more about this? Do you really want that? And I find most of the time, they haven't really thought about what their own needs are. They're trying to make something happen from this invention, which is incredibly difficult to do. And I haven't even seen their invention yet, but I can tell you it's incredibly difficult. And then they sit here and they try to brag about this invention. And they try to tell me about why it's so good, because it's cheap to make, or it replaces something that's expensive, or it has some mechanical advantage over something else on the market, or something. And there's a very good chance, in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, this invention won't work. It's just the law of averages. Every invention cannot work, people. I mean, it can't. And when you put yourself in a scenario that something has to work or there's a major problem. And why inventors want to do this, I don't understand, but they do. And they want to feel like they're in a desperate situation. They want to feel like their back is against the wall, and everything's about this invention. And I haven't even seen their invention yet. And I say to them, so how long have you been inventing? Oh, I've been inventing for a long time. Okay, well, how long is that? Is that a year? Is that a month? Is that a week? Is it 5 years? Oh, at least 10 years. Okay, 10 years. And so in 10 years of inventing, how long does it take for you to come up with an idea? Well, I come up with something at least once a week. Okay, that's cool. And mind you, math was for sure my worst subject in school. But there's 51 weeks in a year, right? So, like, we'll say for round numbers 50 times 10 years, that's like you invented like 500 things, right? Like 500, or actually in this case a little more than 500. Yeah, I guess I've invented 500 things. Okay, so you've invented 500 things. You have one of these 500 things in this box that I'm getting ready to look at for you for free, and your whole net worth and your whole self-esteem is based on 1 out of 500 things that's in this box. Is that what you're going to tell them? No. Well, it turns out usually it is. But what I want them to do is I want them to think that this invention, it just represents a period of their life, a period of their time. It just so happens that this, at this moment, is maybe their best foot that they're putting forward. And that's what it is. Being a successful inventor is like, it's more than like running a marathon. It's like doing an Ironman. It's not a sprint. And coming up with a great idea, you still have a very good chance of failing. It requires hard work. It requires being smart. It requires all these things. It's not just some great idea. People think inventing something and making a business out of it is easy. They're in the wrong field. I'll tell every one of you this. It's not easy. I've talked to only a handful of people in 20 years that are successful that will tell you if you do things right, it's easy. Because it's not. You still have to figure things out. You still have to work. The only reason why I'm talking to you guys is because I worked harder than other people did for many, many years. That's the only reason. I'm not smarter. I'm telling you, a lot of people in this room are smarter than me. A lot of people in this room are better business people than I am. And I would bet money on this one. There's probably not a lot of people in this room that work harder than me. And I'll wager money on that one too. I've made mistakes that have cost me millions of dollars that other people in this room that are smarter than me wouldn't have made. And is it overconfidence? Maybe it is. Because I knew that I could lose this money, and this guy could be lying to me about this deal, and I could still tough enough and strong enough that I could pick myself out of these ashes from it. And maybe that's overconfidence or arrogance or whatever you want to, it's not smart, I'll tell you that. Don't do it. But I did it. And I'm still here, and I still sell several $1 million worth of stuff a year, 20 years later. But, it's not only because I made good choices, because I didn't. But I can tell you this, I've worked really hard. And I embrace that. I embrace the hardship that comes with it. People that want a shortcut and they want it to be easy, and you're in the wrong field. I'm telling you, this is not the one. The idea that this is going to happen quick, someone in the other room said there's a 3-year cycle. I wouldn't say they're right, but I'd say they're warm with their answer. I think you'll know something in 3 years. If you think you're going to make a whole bunch of money next year, you're dependent upon someone else for your manufacturing, and you're dependent upon somebody else for your distribution, man, you've got a lot of question marks. on your piece of paper in front of you. So, I don't know how much time I've spent already. Yeah, Laura's doing this little deal here for me. So that usually means that I need to get my ass going. So, if anybody's got a question, write it down for Laura, and she'll come ask me. I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has. I want to tell you guys a little story. And I told it to Gary on the car ride over here. Gary, I'm gonna tell the caveman story. I'm sorry, but he told me not to. When I'm smarter than him, so I'm gonna tell it. But I fashioned myself to a Neanderthal, and I'm sorry, but I did. And I think all of us need heroes. We grow up, and at a very vulnerable point in our life, we kind of mold ourselves. We're attracted to somebody that we admire, and that person becomes our hero. Maybe we get 2 or 3. And one of the ones that became one of my heroes was in 1984. Arnold Schwarzenegger was my hero, and I saw him in the Terminator movie. Terminator movie was maybe the most important movie to me, not because of the content or any of that. It was, and if we all think about what was our favorite movie, think about when it happened in your life, and think about everything about the movie, not the special effects and all that crap. And when I looked at Arnold in the Terminator movie, I saw a Neanderthal. Yeah, he couldn't read lines with a damn, and you couldn't hardly understand him. He sounded like a Neanderthal, and he kicked everybody's ass, and he's cool, but he was simple cool. And to me, in my mind, that was a Neanderthal. And you know what? I came from a Neanderthal. And you know what? They all died out. That's what the history book said. But you know what? Some of them lived, and I came from one of those. And I just knew this. Now, this isn't some religion statement. Believe me, please, don't take this as a religion statement. But you understand, I'm going to throw the disclaimer out, that I did grow up in a house, or a log cabin, with an anthropologist and an archaeologist for parents. So I based some stuff on, archaeological, whatever. But, Neanderthals, they were like 300 pounds, and they were like 6 foot tall. They were bad to the bone. I mean, they broke, bison's necks and stuff, and they said, I'll be back, and things like this. That was me, and I'm playing football, and I'm learning about sports, and I'm starting to work out. And, I'm Arnold, man. I'm a Neanderthal. That was my idol. And time went on, and then, years and years have gone by. And I read about, later on in life, recently, more and more, millions of dollars has been spent studying what Neanderthals were. Millions and millions of dollars. And I just learned, 2-3 years ago, the average Neanderthal was 5'6". I'm like, what? No. The Neanderthal, that's 6'5". I came from 6'5", not 5'6". And Neanderthals, they're 170 pounds. I'm like, what? That was my junior year in high school. No, I'm badass. That's 165 pounds. That's not badass. But it doesn't matter. It's what it means in here. It's what you believe. That's what's important. It's not what reality is. We all need our heroes. We need to be drawn to something. And the sad facts about it is that, bipedal humanoid critters, similar to us, came into Europe 1 million years ago, more than 1 million years ago. We don't know for sure. And archaeologists are very confident that 400,000 years ago, the Neanderthal mastered fire. They had pets. They buried their dead. They worshipped some sort of something. They put I mean, these things were advanced. And I came from this. And they lived in caves and small family groups, and they got along. They mastered Europe for almost 1,000,000 years. I mean, they had a range of hundreds of thousands of square miles, all the way into Siberia, on islands off of Spain. The Neanderthal, what I came from. And the crazy thing is that about 50,000 years ago, sometime around then, modern humans came into Europe. And they completely thought different than what I always grew up feeling that my ancestor was. They weren't isolated living in caves. They didn't have a set plan. They weren't just in little family groups. These guys were in mobs of people. And in a period like a blink of an eye, like 5,000 years, which in the big scheme, in 1,000,000 years, this is a blink of an eye, all the Neanderthals were gone. The last stronghold of Neanderthal was about 35,000 years ago, they think, on the Straits of Gibraltar in a cave. They completely were wiped out. It wasn't because they couldn't find food. They found food for 1,000,000 years in the worst ice age. But for some reason they died within 5,000 years of a forward-thinking, different mindset of something very similar. My ancestor wasn't able to adapt. And I thought about this, and I thought about my business and my family, and I'll be honest, I've tried to learn from this. You can't be content to just sit back and let other people take advantage of the resources around you. You can't just sit back in your cave and just think how good life is. It's been this way for 1,000,000 years. Yeah, there's a mob of people outside. Oops, it died. Yeah, there's a mob of people outside hunting in my backyard. That's fine with me, because I'm just going to hang out here. If you wait around, you can't compete. And your business, if it doesn't adapt, is just like the Neanderthal. And I took a vow 15, 18 years ago that mine wouldn't. All right? There's my history story.
Very good. So now everybody's inspired. A completely different presentation than the last meeting we've had. But it's a great inspiration. Now go out there and get your invention on the market. So here's a couple questions. Tell us about your failures. I'm sure you've never had any.
Yeah.
In manufacturing, and how did you correct them? Give one example, possibly.
Oh my God.
Not 20 minutes either.
Okay, how much time I got on this one, Gary? Okay, I'll tell you the worst one. I'll tell you the very worst one. The very worst one cost me about $1,000,000. Just $1,000,000. And it was, as you can notice by me, I'm a people person. My best friend in college's brother came to me and asked me to invest in his company. And against my better judgment, I did. And I then spent so much money building this company. And I paid for patents all over the world on his technology. And I hired infrastructure. I did everything right. I was ready to conquer the world with an incredible idea. About 3 years into this venture, our first shipment of product, and we had several failures with the manufacturing of this product. And the failures came from relying on companies in the United States that didn't need the money to produce the goods. When I look back over my shoulder at it. The people that I worked with, they didn't need to make this money. They didn't have payments. They were already rich. They really didn't care. When you do business with people that failure is no option, then they work a little harder than when you deal with someone who failure is plan B. So when the first shipment is due to arrive, this person takes the last funds that I put in the bank account and forms another corporation, and then takes all the patents he hadn't signed to the corporation that I had paid for, and started a new company competing with the same goods, and took all the product to his house, and then a very expensive legal battle ensued. And mind you, the person didn't have income for 2 years. I had actually paid all of his bills and supported him up to this point. He didn't have a job. So him fighting a legal battle really wasn't an issue, but he took everything the company had and locked it in his house, which means that the authorities had to be involved, which means a long, lengthy legal struggle has to happen. So when I look over the shoulder at the worst disaster I had, and why did it happen, and I've done a lot of thinking about this, it happened because I built a castle, an unbelievable castle, an expensive one, the most expensive one I ever built. And the foundation for it was a material similar to cardboard, maybe. And that's not the way to build something that's going to last. And if you don't see the foundation, it's underneath the ground, right? You either built a very good one, or you didn't care about the foundation. I didn't. I built an unbelievable. I spent $150,000 just on worldwide patents all over the world for this product, which I didn't care that he hadn't assigned these patents over to the company that I completely funded. He kind of kept them in his name and started another company. So my biggest disaster actually came from trusting someone who had not earned that trust. I guess that's the layman terms for the answer. All right? All right, they get a book, that person does. That was a painful one right there. Please don't ask that question again. Okay.
That was a tough one.
I got my ass kicked on that one. Yeah.
Here's a tougher one.
No, it's not. Can't be.
No, that's the toughest one.
That was
Try to
a-
put it number one. How important do you think distribution is?
Distribution. Well, distribution is an interesting animal. Distribution is different than what it was. You got to understand, the market is ever changing. A 5-year plan is pretty worthless. Throw that thing in the trash. There's no such thing as a 5-year plan. I really don't think you should really pay too much attention to a 2-year plan. I think you should look at a 6-month plan, right? Your distribution in 6 months is what you should really be looking at. Don't look at what you might do 2 years from now. And that's a big, huge mistake that banks like to make. Distribution used to rely on mass chain stores that were brick and mortar stores that had buyers that had a lot of knowledge and had been in the industry for a long time and made big incomes. This is a very different world right now. Right now, you have kids right out of college that work for about $8 or $9 an hour buying for $1 million accounts. It's ridiculous, but that's the way it is. Don't put too much energy on any distribution that you don't control yourself. With this being said, what do you control yourself? Well, you control your website, you control e-commerce, you control live sales, you control sales that are completely dependent upon your ability to succeed. As soon as you start relying upon committees to pay your bills, you're in trouble. And the large customers, the large chains of stores that are publicly traded are the most crooked that I've done business with. I have myself almost had to go to court twice on 2 different occasions selling to chains of stores with more than 2,000 stores in each chain. They have all of the money and they want to keep it that way. And there's a reason why they have all the money. And to their defense, it's very, very competitive for them. They have a lot of overhead, so they should not pay the people they're buying their stuff from. Control your destiny.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Who's that? Excellent question. You said you are, let me have the microphone here. You said you were a hard worker. Is that true? Did you seek your show, or did someone come looking for you?
Okay, that's a good one. He added that, is that true deal? I read it. He likes to do that. So, yeah, I went to college and majored in how to have a reality show. I was actually a biology nerd. In 2009, a talent scout from Mark Burnett Productions contacted me, and they said, do you want to be on a reality show with Joan Rivers called How Did You Get So Rich? And I didn't really like the name, but for some reason, I was intrigued. And my whole life, I shouldn't say my whole life, but a major portion of my life was spent like hiding from people. You know, I lived in a cave for a year and that whole deal. You don't have a big social life when you do these things. And the idea of having Joan Rivers in my house was very, very polar opposite to what I've done in my life. But I like extreme things, and for some reason, I contemplated it for a split second, and I then said, yes, I'll do it. And the coincidence was I was already at a trade show in Florida, and they were doing their interviews at a place really close to where my trade show was, and so they sent a car to get me. I was actually very close to this. So when I go to trade shows or when I sell my stuff, I wear these ratty pair of old overalls that I've had for years and years. It's kind of my Armani suit. And when I showed up at this event for Mark Burnett Productions that was, you know, very extravagant in my overalls, I didn't impress very many people. And I drank, I think, 2 Long Island iced teas, and I was less impressive. And I went into this room with their staff, and they had this big, huge walnut table and these very extravagant chairs. I notice little details like this when I walk into these places, and there's these very wealthy people sitting around that probably weren't as wealthy as they were acting, but these were the people that work for Mark Burnett Productions. And I sat down at the end of this big, huge table, and I said, well, I'll be on your show if you want me to, but I will ruin your show if you let me on there. And they're like, okay. Well, we have all these people with all these net worths, and we have 4 billionaires that have already been approved, and why would you say this? I'm like, well, these people have a lot more money than me. I'm probably the poorest one you'll have on your show, but they all suck, you know. And I'll ruin your show. I'm just warning you if you want me on your show. I'm not going to charge you. I don't know why in the hell I care if the world sees my bathroom, but I don't care. Go ahead. I used to live in a cave, by the way. And they're like, I don't think they really bought into this, but Joe did. But anyway, so they came out and filmed, and I met Jo, and that was pretty neat. I became friends with her, and I did a couple shows for her as a favor. I've been to her house and all that stuff, and it was pretty neat. And I think this is one thing I can share with you that would benefit a lot of people in this room. And that is really identifying what opportunity is. Opportunity is what you make of it. Opportunity is not waiting for a guy to show up knocking at your door with a silver platter and a check on it, in a tuxedo with a cameraman over his shoulder. That just doesn't, maybe it happens for other people, but for me it never happens. Opportunity is keeping your eye kind of like the Terminator in like the scanning mode, you know, when tick, 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 when you walk in a room, you know, it's like identifying targets of opportunity. That's what opportunity is. It's looking at everything. And I saw all this production, and I saw all these people standing around, this horrific waste of money, and all this filming, and then, you know, for 2 minutes, and, you know, then Joan saying something, and this little bald guy walking around next to her with a little briefcase telling her what to say, and I just watched this whole thing, and then I went to her house and had this industry party with her, and, you know, anyway, that was, you know, kind of an off-the-wall deal, but anyway, long story short, I watched this show on television, and this is after meeting all these networks and all these agents and all these people, and it sucked. You know, I saw it on TV, and I was like, that really sucks, you know. And you know, I watched the people before me and the people after me. I mean, I'm not really a TV watcher, but I was so not impressed. And I sat down at the dinner table that night and with my wife, Honey Buns, and I said, can I have a reality show? This is in 2009. And it's like, kind of like I was wanting to go to Walmart and buy one. And she's like, well, why would you say that? I said, our life is, people would learn from it, like how I actually live and what I actually do. Like when I watched all the rest of these episodes on the show that they talk so much about, I didn't learn anything. It was a waste of my time. Like I feel like I want my money back on that 30 minutes I just spent. And if I had a show and people filmed what I do for a living and how I choose to live and how I choose to build my house and how I stock my lake and how I drink water from a spring and how I split firewood, because this is the way I grew up doing it. And granted, my stove is different than when I grew up, but I didn't lose what I am. I didn't lose my identity. I adapted, and I make it the best I can make it. But I learned from these building blocks. I think it'd be good for people. When I watched this show, it was terrible. And we talked, and I say this to people, men especially. If you're going to think about even making an important decision, you better have to sign off on the sucker before you go to like second base on it, because you'll get shut down. So I got early on, I got her approval, and when she was in a moment of weakness, she said, "Yeah, you can have a reality show." Okay. Well, that was her mistake right there. So that was in 2000. That was in almost 2010. So from that point on, I decided I'm going to have a reality show, but I know nothing about television. I know nothing about Hollywood, and nothing about any of this stuff. And I then, one thing leads to another, and a lady named Kara comes and films a documentary film on me about success. And when I'm doing, and I wasn't really overly impressed with this documentary film, but I did it, and just to help her out because I liked her. And her camera guy was from Missouri, and he was from a particular place in Missouri that has an exotic animal auction, a place called Macon, Missouri. And that's where it started, was Macon, Missouri. I said, "Oh, you're from Macon, Missouri," and we started talking, and he's a camera guy. And then, long story short, I'll spare a lot of these details, but about a year later, this guy came to me for help, this cameraman. Just like an inventor. It wasn't an invention, he wanted something else, but we can say it was an invention. And before I got to hear what he wanted me to help him with, I said, "What are your needs? What are your goals? What is it you want?" He's like, "Well, my wife and I are just getting married, and we need about $30,000 a year of income, more than what I can make doing these car commercials that I'm doing in Columbia, Missouri. So you're wanting basically to keep working, but you need about $30,000 more income than you're making right now." "Yes." "Okay, now show me what you have." He showed me what he's had. I said, "I don't think what you have will do what you're wanting it to do. I will try for you, but my instinct is I don't think it will." And he was really deflated. And I said, "But I do know what can make your goals that you want right now currently." And he says, "What's that?" I said, "Help me get a reality show, and you will make $30,000 a year." And it threw a curveball at him. But what is opportunity? This guy hadn't worked for any production companies. He'd only done a little bit of filming in Hollywood. He wasn't some big agent connected to whatever. But I didn't give up. This is a year and a half after I sat at the table and asked Honey Buns, "Can I have a reality show?" And I hadn't forgot about it. My mind was still in the scanning mode for a little piece of opportunity. And he said, "I will try." I said, "If you get me a reality show, I guarantee you will make what you're wanting to make. I will help you with your item right now, but I don't know that it'll go." And I did help him with it, and it didn't go. Spencer Gibbs said no. Party City said no, but I tried for him. And lo and behold, 2 years later, he helped me get a reality show, and he made over $30,000. He made almost $40,000 last year, and he never even worked on it. He just introduced me to an agent that introduced me to a production company, which then my friend, I actually paid him $1,500, and he came and filmed me for a weekend. I took this film myself, and I went to 7 networks myself in person in California, Los Angeles, and Washington, D.C., and New York City. I pitched it to 7 networks, and I got 3 offers. There is no better salesman than yourself. If you rely on agents, if you rely on production companies, you're rolling the dice. If you rely on yourself, then you can take whatever answer you get. So that's what I did.
Excellent. Very, very good. Who asked that long question? You get 2 pairs of teeth for that one. We got a few more minutes before we got to take Jonah back to the cave. How do you? And that's true. Can they see some of your cave where you lived in the cave? Can they see that on YouTube? Or
I'm sure you can.
yeah, get on
You
YouTube.
look up my name on YouTube.
Billy Bob or Jonah White.
Stuff you should.
Yeah, you'll see a lot. You'll see his old TV shows from last 2 years, I guess. And with the cave that he grew up in, and he did sleep in the cave. How do you go? How can you build a prototype in the cave? I mean, how do you go from idea to prototype? Then how do you get the product to be seen or reviewed?
Well, those questions are a little forward thinking. First off, you need to know that you're onto something. You need to know that the market has vulnerability where you want to go. Do some research. Actually, do a lot of research. Inventors, they have very creative minds. We suffer from ADD inherently. We want to think this is the best idea that we've ever seen. We've done very little research. I've had probably a dozen inventors in my career bring me an invention that I'm already selling on my website. They hadn't even looked on my website to see what I actually sold. They're like, okay, yeah, we call that item this, and it's $19.99. Look on our website, you can get your own. Oh, okay. Okay. So they don't like to do research in their homework. They want instant gratification. And I'm telling you, it's not out there. I mean, I don't see it. How do you go to your prototype? Well, it depends on what your invention is. There's no 100% in anything. I can't tell you have to do this to make a prototype. I can't tell you need to make an expensive SLA model, or you need to make a 3D printed mold, or you need to make a prototype from a printer, or you need to have a production prototype, or you need to have whatever, because it changes dynamically. In little roundtable discussions that we had, patents came up quite a bit. And patent is a double-edged sword. And patents are not the answers to everything, and please don't think they are. I'm not a big fan on spending money on things that you can't turn around and sell for more money than you spent on them. I'm not a big fan of it. I know sometimes you have to do it, but be very cautious when you do that. Buying inventory, I like this. I like this a lot. Bankers don't like this. I like this. Knowing you have $1 million of stuff that you could sell in your shed if you work hard, to me that's confidence. But other people don't like that. They want to have $1 million tied up in a damn patent. Well, patents make you nothing. Patents don't make you any money at all. All patents do is they possibly give you leverage in a negotiation, or they let you file a lawsuit on somebody. That's all they do. And I have seen people get crucified because they get into a lawsuit with a patent that they have, and they don't have the financial means to pay $250,000 or $350,000 to fight this thing. And you're looking at a guy who spent more than $1 million on lawsuits, and I don't like doing it. I strongly suggest stay out of courtrooms. I don't know if there's any judges in this room. I don't want anybody to raise their hand, but I probably don't like them. Next question.
Excellent comment. Excellent. And that's very true. You've spent millions of dollars in fighting lawsuits. Last one. Whoever did this one gets another free pair of poker teeth, whatever you want. Is that your husband there? You too can have teeth and. Yeah, yeah. Glenn Howson said, "What was it that helped you start your invention?" I don't think you started it, right? And then how'd you meet your wife? Wasn't it on the beach in Australia? Yeah, that's a great story, but we only have a few minutes before I get you back. But I'll let Jonah stand outside and you guys can tackle him for a little while, and then I got to get back to the cave.
All right. What's the first question?
I knew you forgot.
Yeah, 80,
Yeah,
Sorry.
I forgot. I knew I should have
30
said
30
that
minutes
twice.
is good.
What was it that helped you start your invention?
I think hunger is a great motivator, right there. When I invented, I didn't actually invent the Billy Bob teeth. I did not. My best friend invented them. He was a sophomore in dental school at Southern Illinois University. He actually invented them in denture class about 2 weeks before I met him. He showed them to me on his hand, and instantly I looked at that idea and I knew it was what I was going to do. I had no idea that I could sell 20 million of them, which I have, but I knew that it was better than working for the man, which is what I was not going to do. When I formed the company about 2 weeks later, I took a Springfield 45 handgun. I sold it for $400. That was my entire net worth. And I formed the Billy Bob Teeth Corporation, and my friend Rich and I were 50-50 partners. I then got a white lab coat with the name Steve on it, and I became a bastard student at the university for about a semester until they caught on to me, making the Billy Bob teeth in the lab. Thank you, Southern Illinois University. Okay, I didn't say that. Anyway, next question. How did I meet my wife? See, I can hold it together. Yeah. So, I had decided that my wife was going to come from another country. I didn't know which one. I knew she could not come from the United States. I was getting a great amount of publicity and a great amount of press. I went to Time Magazine, People Magazine, Wall Street Journal. They were all writing articles on Rich and I. And as you know about the press, they like to sensationalize things, and they like to stretch the truth, and they like to say things that really they want to sell Big Macs and advertising space. So everyone was talking about all this money that Rich and I were making. And I only owned a vehicle for maybe 3 or 4 months prior to this. So I wasn't really the millionaire that they were saying I was. The company was making more money than I'd ever made in my life or ever thought I would. But I was reinvesting it all in yourself. So you really, when you form a company and you're growing, you don't have any money. You're reinvesting everything back into the business. It's only when sales drop off that you actually make money. Or you can actually keep money when you stop buying more product every month. But anyway, all these women were starting to call my parents' house because I'm still living at home. And every time an article would come out in New York City or wherever, my mom would get all these phone calls. And I didn't like this. And at the time, my friends from college that I played football with, they were all, they've all had like 1.2 kids apiece, and they were all getting divorced. And I'm like, that's not going to be me. And I don't want a girl to marry me because she thinks she's going to be rich. I've been poor my whole life, when I was in 4th grade, I didn't even have a pair of shoes for the whole entire summer. I didn't own a pair of shoes. Think about that. How many people you know don't own shoes? I didn't. And it wasn't because I didn't want them. I didn't want them, but my parents didn't have $6 for a new pair of shoes. And that was fine by me because I was an Indian, right? That's what I wanted someone to think about this. I didn't want someone to marry me because they just read in the People magazine, this guy's a millionaire, he's 27 years old, and whatever. And so I knew that I really needed to meet somebody from another country who had no idea who I was. So my friend and I, my best friend and I, Rich, we thought about what countries to go to. We narrowed it down from Argentina, Australia, and New Zealand, and South Africa, 4 countries. We narrowed it down to Australia, which I'd always wanted to go. And I got a student visa, and we flew there for about $400. And I took $200 with me, and a backpack full of Billy Bob teeth, which I sold for 4 months. So, and I guess this right here is the big answer. When I was in Australia for 4 months, wife shopping. That's what I called the whole trip, wife shopping. And when 95 years old, and I'm laying in my bed, and I'm on my deathbed, and someone asked me, what were the best, in your life, Jonah, you've done great things, whatever, what were the best 4 months of your life that you spent? If I know what I know now, and I don't know what the future is, I'm going to guess, I'm going to say, it was in 1996 when I went to Australia to find a wife, those 4 months. And when I look at it monetarily, that trip cost me $600 for the best 4 months of my life. And how many people have we all talked to that say they can't do something because they don't have the money to do it? And I say to those people, if you really want to do it, you figure a way of doing it. Money doesn't fix your problems. If you don't have your health and you don't have ambition, you have very little. So don't use money as an excuse why you can't go out and just have an incredible life, like me and my best friend did for 4 months in Australia, wife shopping in 1996. All right?
Excellent. And you met her on a beach, right? You were sleeping on a bench?
I met my wife. I was actually selling Billy Bob teeth one night in Brisbane, Australia. My wife's from Brisbane. And we have 4 kids, ranging from 11 to 16 years old. And I have a wonderful mother-in-law. And we travel to Australia every other year, and my mother-in-law comes to see us here in the United States every other year. And it was a very good choice, and it really wasn't easy, but it was the best choice for me.
So hard work and ambition, and you can do it without any money. You can be successful. So thank you very much. Before we get down, Jonah can tell some more stories out there, and then we'll get you out of here. So our next meeting is June 4th, I think, the first Thursday of the month, so it's in June. I don't know if we can top Jonah, but we'll bring in some more people in to talk about prototyping and design and inventing and share more stories. So thanks again, Jonah, for coming. So if anybody needs anything, we can network and talk. And I know we still got engineers here, prototype makers, a lot of information. There's books. Come get your free Billy Bob teeth and books. Whoever answered the question.
And one more thing, if anybody wants any information on seminars that I'm attending at my place, just meet up with me, and I can send you guys more information about it.
Yes, thank you. Thanks again.